And with us right now is Emma Bradford. We share a last name. Emma is a founder of Creating Change, a unique mix of dance, creative arts, and insight. She's an NLP trainer and artist, and she spent the last 10 plus years supporting women worldwide in reducing anxiety and transforming their relationships with themselves, their body, emotions, negative self-talk, and the life they experience. Emma is also the host of Creating Change with Emma Bradford podcast that shares quick tips and insights to fall back in love with yourself and life. Welcome to the summit, Emma.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Of course, it's our pleasure. Well, I'm going to put the spotlight on you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to be doing the work that you're doing in the world today?
Yes, so it's been quite a journey. I first initially got into NLP because I was experiencing weekly panic attacks. So that was something that I had on a weekly basis, and anyone who's experienced anxiety or even panic attacks, which is like an extreme form of anxiety, you know that it's not fun. It can literally feel like a matter of life and death, and that's exactly what it felt like. And it was thanks to NLP that I was able to start understanding like how I was creating that, like how I was contributing to that, how I was like continuing that loop and that cycle, because the mind-body connection is so strong and so powerful, and something that we're not taught about at school so often, well, at least not when I was at school. So I found myself on an NLP training, and it was about halfway through the training where it's like this light bulb just went off and everything made sense. It was like, oh wow, like this is why. And like it's this deeper understanding into like why we do what we do, like how the mind works, how the emotions work, like everything, all of that together. And I was able to let go of weekly panic attacks. That was something, so in combination of NLP, acupuncture, and cutting out caffeine, that helped get rid of them completely. And then I started coaching other people, and then I ended up becoming an NLP trainer. I was doing practitioner trainings, like training new coaches, new practitioners for a while. And then as things happen in life, life is constantly calling you to up level and to expand. So then came another transformation, and I had a series of like really potent experiences where a friend passed away. I felt really deeply hurt and rejected by a friend. Like lots of things happened which made me question life. And I just like really got to the point where I was like, okay, well, why am I here? What am I doing? What is this all about? And I knew that my soul was calling me to do something a lot deeper, like in terms of like what I'm here to do in terms of the creative expression. Like NLP is great. I see some people asking NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. It's to do with the mind, the emotions, and how we communicate to ourselves and others. And but there was something else that I was here to do. So that's when I asked the question, a really powerful question for me, which was, what did I love doing as a child? And that shifted everything. And then I was like, oh yes, come back to the painting, come back to the arts, come back to the dance. And I blended everything together to create what I call Creating Change. And it's been more than 5 years now doing that and bringing everything together. So there's much more to the story, but that's a little insight.
That's beautiful. Would you, since yes, you noticed the question, so neuro-linguistic programming, would you just give a little bit of insight on what it actually does? Like what's like, how does that modality work?
Yes, so I call it the codification of what we do and how we do what we do. It's really like this understanding of the human mind, the unconscious mind specifically, because we can think about things consciously, we can set goals consciously. This is what so many people do every New Year's. They're like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then what happens? The unconscious mind comes in with a different a different priority. So we self-sabotage, we don't end up following through things. Like what's held within the unconscious is really important. And this is a big focus of NLP. I like to think of it as a mix between hypnosis and coaching. So it's like coaching, but we've got the added element of working with the unconscious mind and lots of tools and techniques that help us do that. And we use some hypnotherapy, some hypnotic language when we do certain techniques. So it's a mix between the two. And how I use it may vary to how other people use it, other trainers. When I was teaching my students, I mean, because it's very broad, there's a huge spectrum out there that you have. NLP is used very widely in sales and marketing. It's used in politics. So this is where sometimes it gets a bad reputation. And how I use it in terms of really finding out what the inner child needs and wants and how we can use it in a holistic way. That's how I was taught, and that's how I use it, and that's how I love to use NLP. It's a really wonderful practice. There's lots of different things that we do, but the easiest way to describe it is that, yeah, somewhere in between coaching and hypnosis.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for explaining that. So I know that through your work too, you when we connected, you said you've been supporting moms as of late too. What does that look like? What are you, and I would love for you to share, because there are a lot of and I'm sure men too, but women, from my experience, most of my clients are women, who experience heavy anxiety and panic attacks. And so then add a little kids into the mix. How do you navigate yourself when you know there is a panic attack coming? Or if you're just in the middle of a full-blown panic attack, and now what?
Yeah. So it's like, first of all, I just want to just reach out to all the people that are experiencing that and anxiety and panic attacks. Like I really feel I understand. I've been there. It's not fun. It's not fun. And also I just want to mention that I am not a biological mother. I have two godsons. So I've worked extensively with women over the last 11 years who have children, and also some fathers as well. So I've heard a lot, and I've worked with a lot of parents. Though I just wanted to mention that I'm not here to teach people how to be a parent. I'm here to talk about the mindset. So in terms of anxiety, like a big focus of what I work with clients is, yes, anxiety, and also body image. Body image is another huge topic. When there's this panic attack coming, is noticing the early signs is key, because this is the thing. Like if we allow it to escalate, then it's a lot harder to come back to our calm center afterwards. So if we can notice the little beginning stages that sometimes people notice, perhaps they get sweaty palms, they have shortness in breath, their mind is kind of going round and around in certain loops, like negative stories. That's another big thing that I focus on, is how to step out of that. And it's really important. Like the first step is awareness. The awareness, like really just noticing, okay, what's currently happening, and being like paying attention to the body, paying attention to the breath. This is the thing, like so much of us in life are just rushing about, do, go. And especially when there are children involved, there's not much time at all, if any, like for ourselves. So it's just having that awareness in the beginning stages. And then it's that point of like what most people talk about, but it is one of the most powerful things, is coming back to the breath. And coming back to the breath. And I talk about this in terms of a metaphor, because often it's not just simply like, oh, come back to the breath to calm yourself. It goes much deeper than that, because we have the mind with all the stories. And when we're thinking, this is terrible, I'm going to faint, or this is going to happen, or like we're caught up in those stories, our body's listening, and it will create even more symptoms, and it will sometimes create like the experience of us fainting or something like that. So it's important to first notice the stories. And we have the stories, and we have the life within. So I often use this metaphor of like human beings were like music. So we have happy songs, we have sad songs, we have angry songs. There's all different types of music out there in the world, many different types. And regardless of the melody, regardless of the lyrics being sung, they all have one thing in common. And that's the rhythm, that's the beat. Every single song, whether that's fast or slow, it has this rhythm, it has this beat, regardless of the story being told in that song. So it's just like human beings. We have the mind with the stories. There'll be all those stories there, though we also have the rhythm. We have the beat. It's coming back to the breath, coming back to the heartbeat, and remembering that there's a difference there. Like sometimes we're so caught up in living up here in the stories, and we forget that there's the life within us, and it's coming back to the life, coming back to the breath, that helps us to calm everything down and just gives us a moment to get more oxygen up to the brain to then think more clearly, and to really realize that most of the time we're okay, and it's the mind creating these stories out of fear, and there's actually nothing to worry about, or sometimes not much to worry about. Obviously there's much more I could share, and it depends on the individual what's going on, but that's the starting point.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that analogy. I've never ever heard that. And it's really quite beautiful. Like even just, if we can grab a hold of that analogy and be present enough to it to just recognize that there is a rhythm and a beat and connect to that. Is there a specific, because breathwork is a whole thing all in itself, and breathwork practitioners, etc. In those charged moments where, there might be a panic attack coming or anxiety coming on, is there a specific pattern of breath that you like to use to really calm yourself?
So what I was doing is I was placing my attention to one point. So I was using my hand or my finger and placing that over my belly button and just bringing my breath down to that point. Because when we're focused on one point, everything simplifies, everything slows down. We feel a lot calmer. So we can count with that as well. So breathwork practitioners will have many different versions that they will use. I like the box method. So you're literally just counting up 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and that you can also like pause according to how long you want to pause as well. So like just creating this box method, that's one. But the most important thing for me is like what really helped me, and also clients that I was working with, is just coming back to one point of focus. Because this is the thing, like the mind, especially when we're caught up in anxiety, overwhelm, and then the panic starts building from that, we're focused on many things at once. And when we come back to one point of focus, we're able to calm everything down. So it's really helpful just to place the hand over the belly button and just deep belly breaths. Come back down to the belly, because often when there's anxiety involved, we're breathing up here. Like we're literally just like walking heads, like breathing from the upper part of the chest. And when we slow everything down, and having the hands there or a finger on your belly button just helps to reinforce that, and you just bring your focus to that point. That really helps.
Yeah, I wasn't putting my finger there right now, but as you were talking, I'm trying to just like really send my breath down there, and it really does. It really changes your physiology all at the same time. So it's a very simple thing that we can do. It's just slowing down enough to, like you said, to catch those telltale signs that something is coming on that is creating. Now, this is something that I've heard recently, and I'll ask you because you might know. So we always said that like the thoughts create the feelings. And so in your experience, and since you've been somebody who's suffered with panic attacks, were you always conscious of the thoughts that were creating the panic attack, or was it so fast that you felt it in the body first?
Sometimes in the beginning, you're not aware at all. And this is what I call the inner critic hangover, because it's the hangover of the negative self-talk. So sometimes that can be in extreme form, so it becomes a panic attack. But often, day to day, most people experience this. They feel a little low, or they feel a bit sluggish, or they feel, I mean, of course, there can be many reasons for that, but one big reason is negative self-talk. So it's whenever we're noticing that our emotional state has dropped a little, or that we're noticing some nervousness within our body, within our system, that is the hangover from negative self-talk. So then we can trace it back, because often in the beginning we're not even aware. We're just like, oh, it just comes out of nowhere. But it's because so often we're not present with ourselves. We're not present in our body. We're not in our body. And much of society just lives up in the head and lives in the doing rather than the being. So the more we can practice coming back to this slower pace of life, and it is a practice. It's not a click your fingers once and you're there. It's a practice, and I'm practicing still. Like, there is a lot easier now, and I don't have panic attacks anymore. But it's a practice, and it's just coming back to that slower way of being. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, the life is for experiencing rather than getting somewhere. And of course, like, we want to achieve things, we want to do things in this lifetime, and we have an identity, we have an ego, but we are human beings. There's two aspects to that. There's a human side and the soul. We've got the ego and the soul. There's two aspects to that. So depending on what people's beliefs are, I really invite people to come back to the life, come back to the experiencing, and start noticing how that shifts things. And if they're not sure in the beginning what those beginning stages are, then just notice those moments when your emotional state drops a little bit, or you start noticing some physical symptoms. Then trace your thoughts back. What was I just thinking about? For me personally, quite often there was a should, there was a have to, there was a must do, there was a need to. These are what we call model operators in NLP. So there was a lot of pressure I was placing on myself. And then you can trace it back and state that thought again in your mind, changing that word. So rather than should, could. Or rather than have to, I can. Or I choose to. Like, you can change the words and then notice how that feels different in your body.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And as you're sharing that, my next question that comes to mind. So if we think about, I hear this from parents all the time, whether that's parents with little kids who are maybe still at home, or whether that's people who have businesses and careers and have older kids. Life is busy. So everyone is living in this busy mode. And so coming back to our body when we think we're busy. And so, like, well, how would you, let's just start with somebody who has got, little kids. So how do you get away from the shoulds and musts, where you literally are thinking, I need to change the diapers, I need to feed the baby, I need to clean the house, I need to cook like all this stuff. And it's so, like you said, there's so much pressure. How do we reframe that, even though those are things we actually do need to do?
Yeah. There's a lot of pressure, and I worked with many new mothers, and one thing that we were often talking about was like creating little mini retreats throughout the day, and those mini retreats were literally like a matter of seconds. So it's like reframing it and choosing to, like, when we come back to the breath, when we take a deep inhale and exhale, that's a mini retreat right there. And we're just creating these little moments throughout the day. And often, this is the thing, the mind will create these stories and say, oh, I need a whole hour or a whole day or this in order to meditate, or in order to do all these things. Sometimes, like, first we just start with the little seconds, the little moments throughout the day, and especially when there are new mothers or like new parents, like, that's all you can do, because there's no time for anything else. So just create those little mini retreats, and like reframing it as a retreat can be really helpful, and you just come back to the breath. And I just feel that that is one of the most powerful things. And then when you've connected to the breath, then you can start looking at the dialogue, at the stories, at the words being used, and just start shifting little words. Like, of course, there are things that need to be done. There are things you need to change the the nappies, as we call in the UK, or you need to do these things in order to care for your children. So it's when there are these little mini retreats and you start shifting the word to like, I choose to, I can, like, I'm like, you can find what words work for you, because everyone's different, but usually those ones are a great starting point.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I do love that through my own training, that has been a huge part of the mindset shift and the retraining of my own self and my nervous system. And also something that you talked about in the beginning, how we are actually creating things because of the words and the thoughts that we think. So just being in gratitude, because obviously we choose to be on this journey as parents. So it all started with a choice, and then it continues to be a choice, but also what a beautiful gift. And I love what you're saying, to choose what works for choose what works for you, because we want to believe what it is that we're telling ourselves, so that we can actually embody that reframe. So thank you for that. In terms of practice, because you were saying it's a practice, and I agree. I don't think we're ever done practicing. What is your favorite practice besides breath to get into something that really brings you back to your body? Is there anything else besides breath?
Yes, so those who are on my Instagram will see that there's a few videos of dancing. Dancing is a huge love of mine and something I bring into workshops. And I find that that's a really powerful way to come back into the body. Like, it gives you a chance to just shake off the stress. And this is also a great activity to do with children, because if you're feeling stressed, if your child is a bit on edge and you're noticing that you're just about to explode and everything's just like tense and going wrong, and put on some music and dance with your child and just pretend to be lions or pretend to be animals in the jungle, pretend, like, just play, have fun with that. And this can be a great way to come back into the body. Your child will also notice the benefit as well, and they will be able to have this wonderful role model of like, wow, when things are a bit tense, this is a great thing to do. And they can learn how to come back into the body. So dancing for me is one of the best activities. I mean, everyone's different. Like, some people, I've had some clients that love running, like that's their thing. I'm not a runner. That's not, I'm a dancer. Like, that's what I love. But everyone's different. It's like finding what works for you. But I feel that dancing is a really wonderful way to let go of any stress, any tension. We can shake the body. It's like dancing like nobody's watching. It's not about a choreography. It's not about doing it perfect. It's about dancing like no one's watching. And this is so powerful, especially when there are emotions there, that we're allowing those emotions, energy and motion, to flow through the body and out of the body and not remain stuck. We're connecting to the inner child, which is a huge thing. And this is something that most people forget about, because when there's a lot of negative self-talk, what's behind that is the inner child asking for something. So if we come back to the body, move, dance, and we're able to connect to the inner child in that way, in a creative way, that's a wonderful thing to do. So there are so many benefits to dancing and moving, and I just feel that that's a really powerful thing. And when I've done this in workshops, in trainings, people have loved this. Like, this is you can just see the smiles on people's faces. And I just feel it's a really powerful thing to do. I mean, we can see nature programs where, like, after an animal has been chased by a lion, that they stand there and they shake their body. And they're literally shaking all the stress off their body, out of their system, and then they continue about their day. So we are animals also, we're mammals, like, and so often we're just like continuing, like a stressful thing will happen, or like a conversation, or like something that's charged, and then we just hold it and we continue, and it's still within our system. So to simply shake a little, move a little, put on some fun music is a great way to do that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. That's amazing. So many great takeaways and so many little simple practices. And yeah, like the whole just shake. Like I sometimes do that. I tell my clients to do horsey lips, and we laugh about it because you end up spitting on your screen. I do a lot of Zoom coaching, and but even something silly like that, it just like loosens up the energy. So thank you for the reminder of the shake off. So yeah, everybody just shake it off. So awesome. Thank you, Emma. And I know you also have a gift to share with our audience. Would you speak a little bit to what you're offering today?
Yeah, so there's a free MP3 download on my website, on the link that's there. And it's a recording of a class that I did a while back, and it's talking about awakening to the magic of life. And I talk about a few things that I've covered today and more, and it's all about waking up to the magic of life, falling back in love with ourselves and life, and just really coming back to the simplicity. I'm a huge fan of simplicity and just like not overcomplicating things. Usually it's the mind and the ego that wants all the fancy techniques and all the complicated things. Like coming back to this deeper awareness of who we are, why we're here, and just coming back to that life that's within us is such a powerful thing to do. And when we do that, we can show up to our children, to like other people from a very different place. So yeah, that's there for anyone who wishes to download that.
Super powerful. And that is in the chat for you guys to grab. So go ahead and grab that. And we will be resending it with the replay when we're done the event today. So thank you so much again, Emma, for being with us, imparting your wisdom on us, spending your time and energy, your beautiful energy. When I met Emma, I said, she's so calming. When I first found her podcast, I'm like, I just feel so calm. So thank you so much for being with us today. And we will see you soon.
Thank you so much.